In a galaxy where kneeling meant survival, one human stood tall, silent, defiant, unarmed. That single refusal shattered ancient traditions, triggered extinction protocols, and awakened fleets the stars had tried to forget. She didn't speak threats. She didn't make demands. She just walked away, and the galaxy began to burn. The arena of Concord was older than most of the species present, built into the asteroid hull of Virx Prime. Its structure was a fusion of anti-gravity marble and hardened star ceramics, able to hold gravitational atmospheres for hundreds of life forms. It had hosted the rise and fall of empires, coronations of emperors, and the trials of war criminals from 6 galaxies. Today, it would host something different. The air was a tapestry of languages, growls, chirps, clicks, thought songs, stitched together by translation nodes. Nearly every seat was occupied. Representatives from over 400 spacefaring civilizations sat in ornate floating thrones or hoverpads, all facing the central obsidian circle known as the Stone of Submission. In the center stood a single figure, not bowed, not kneeling, just standing. Commander Lion Kale, human. Her face was unreadable. No ornate armor, no symbolic chains of surrender like the Council had expected. Just matte black pressure armor, sleeved, sealed, spotless, with no flag, no rank. Her boots rested squarely on the ancient black stone, a platform where every species in history had once bent the knee. Except her. High Chancellor Exar Val of the Creel Dominion stepped forward from the Council platform. His 4 nostrils flared and his spined crest twitched. "Human," he said, voice echoing through the hall, "the Conquered recognizes your species' defeat. Earth has chosen to end its resistance through peace and submission. You are to kneel." Kale said nothing. "The right of joining requires it," hissed a Zelari matriarch beside him. "As dictated by Articles of Galactic Accord, Section 12. 1,000 cameras hovered above, transmitting the ceremony live. Billions watched, billions expected. Kale's eyes scanned the crowd slowly, deliberately. She took a breath, not for nerves, but to hear the sound of her own defiance before the storm. Then she spoke. "You asked us here for peace, but all you offer is servitude." Gasps rippled through the assembly. Translators struggled to inject tone into the sharpness of her voice. Val took a step closer, claws tapping the metal. "This is not an insult. It is tradition. All empires kneel, even the Oraku hordes, even the Sunborns of Hellion. You are no different." Kale tilted her head slightly. "We are." The room fell unnaturally quiet. The sound suppressors, usually automatic, activated early, triggered by stress levels among the delegates. Some species began to shift uncomfortably. "I will stand," Kale said flatly, "and through me so will Earth," Val sneered. "Then Earth shall burn." Kale stepped forward once, just once. The micro-movement triggered alarm protocols, caused 5 guards to unclip plasma halberds, and drew audible shouts from 3 delegations. She didn't flinch. "You already burned Earth," she said. "And still we came." "You came to surrender," Val snarled. "No," Kale said, voice like steel. "We came to see if there was still anything in this galaxy worth speaking to." And with that, she turned around. The galactic arena, ancient and absolute, had no precedent for this. There was no protocol for a species that refused the right of kneeling and then simply left. Security watched her walk across the chamber's width, her boots the only sound. "She must be restrained," said a voice from the Cephalon seats. "She broke ritual," hissed another. But no one moved. No guards dared intercept her. She reached the exit arch, paused, and looked back, not at the Council, but at the Stone of Submission. She tilted her head once, almost in pity, and then walked out of the arena. Silence. Total, absolute silence. Until deep within the automated protocols of the Conquered's ancient systems, something activated. A clause untouched for millennia. Section 12, a failure to kneel. Right of annihilation, initiated. The stone pulsed once in red. A soundless flash vibrated beneath the floor. Then the alarms began to wail. 3 hours later, the decision was made. Earth would be isolated, blockaded, sanctioned, trade banned, travel prohibited, human ambassadors stripped of immunity and exiled, diplomatic buildings seized or erased. Some called it mercy, others called it prudence. A few, however, whispered something different, something dangerous. She didn't come to submit, muttered an aging Thren admiral in private. She came to measure our worth and found us lacking. But the galaxy did what the galaxy always did, moved on. It scoffed. It postured. It enforced the rituals and convinced itself they meant something. Humanity had refused to kneel, so the galaxy would make them pay. On the edge of known space, aboard a deep space observation station, a Senvari technician watched the official Concord feed on delay. He'd seen the human, her silence, her walk, and he noticed something no one else did. When she had stood on the stone of submission, her boot hadn't pressed fully. No imprint, no indent. She hadn't just refused to kneel. She'd refused to even acknowledge the stone. And in the ancient code of warrior cultures across the stars, that wasn't just defiance. That was a promise. The sanctions came fast. Within 72 hours of the Concord assembly, Earth's diplomats were stripped of immunity. Human colonies were locked out of hyperspace lanes. AI trade licenses were revoked. Civilian transports vanished into the dark, unclaimed by any record. Human science delegations were quietly turned away, their shuttles never docking. It was not war, it was not peace, it was containment. And Earth said nothing, no rebuttal, no protest, no transmission, just silence. The galactic media spun narratives about cowardice, about regret. Perhaps humanity has learned its limits, suggested a Jal commentator. The kneeling will come one way or another. In the private chambers of power there was laughter, not even malice, just amused certainty. Humans had been bold once, briefly, but that age was over. The conquered had broken stronger species. They could break one more. 3 months passed. The sanctions tightened. Earth's food convoys were denied re-entry. Orbital stations reported shortages, rationing. The Creel blockade ships camped near Mars, monitoring signals and intercepting any craft daring to leave Sol. All this while the Council preened and postured. Then a whisper arrived. A ping. One long-range distress signal. Faint. Weak. From Carthai 7, a frontier colony 11 light-years beyond Creel-controlled space. The voice on the transmission was broken, distorted by static, but the message was unmistakable. We are under attack, Jar Dominion, no warning, they're slaughtering civilians, families, please, if anyone can hear us. And then silence. No further data, no reply, no survivors. The conquered responded with nothing. Jar Dominion had technically not broken any law. Carthai 7 was a fringe outpost, not officially protected. A deniable event, an unfortunate coincidence. They chose to settle outside conquered boundaries, said a Talari diplomat. Earth should have known better. The next 72 hours were uneventful. The Jar fleet, 3 cruisers, 9 destroyers, over 200 dropships, returned to orbit around Narget Prime for refueling. The attack on Carthai 7 barely registered among their command staff. Another minor purge. A quiet reminder that humans were no longer welcome in deep space. And then, something strange happened. A deep space communications array near Narget Prime went offline. Then another, and another. Before anyone could investigate, the entire Jar fleet lost synchronization. Every screen blinked to black. No alarms, no sounds. Just darkness. Then a single phrase appeared on every Jar command console, typed in flawless Jarin glyphs but unmistakably human in tone. We heard. 1 second later, the entire fleet vanished. No explosion, no energy spikes, no debris, gone. The only thing that remained was a perfect obsidian coin left on the command deck of the Narget orbital tower. No ship was seen arriving, no engines detected. No radiation trail, just the coin. On one side, a carved silhouette of Earth. On the other, a human standing tall, surrounded by fire. The Jar Dominion screamed for answers. They deployed sensor buoys, summoned bounty hunters, interrogated drifters. The conquered demanded Earth explain the event. Earth remained silent, but among the less civilized worlds, rumors spread like fire. Ghost ships, they called them, black vessels with no lights, no comms, no crew signatures, moving with impossible precision. Vessels that could phase through detection fields and were always accompanied by dead silence, cold space, and a single act of absolute judgment. The next colony to fall was Krelos V. It wasn't attacked. It simply froze. Every weapon, every drone, every satellite disabled. When a conquered inspection team arrived, they found the orbital weapons platform shattered, but not from explosion. From within, sliced with molecular accuracy. No survivors. No attackers, just a single satellite repurposed to transmit one message on loop. There was a child on Carthage 7. She built a garden, you burned it. Now we burn you. Across the stars, empires panicked. Not publicly, not yet, but quietly, deeply. The Creel increased patrols near the Sol blockade. The Zelari repositioned their dreadnoughts. The Cephalon rerouted cargo lanes to avoid human gravity wells. Every admiral, every analyst was saying the same thing. This is not retaliation. This is calibration. Humanity wasn't reacting with rage. It was reacting with mathematics, testing response times, data integration, psychological thresholds, confirming that their silence had been a mask not of surrender but of preparation. They were watching, they were measuring, and they were judging. Still, the conquered insisted Earth was isolated, that nothing could reach them, that humanity had no navy left, no colonies to supply them, no allies, but the ghost fleets kept appearing. Only one message ever came from them, repeated across intercepted fragments. No threats, no insults, just a declaration. One of us refused to kneel, so now none of you will stand. At the edge of the galaxy, a forgotten listening post picked up something strange. In a system thought long abandoned, a dead star had ignited. Artificially, its radiation pattern did not match any natural event. The entire system had been transformed into a controlled fusion zone, and at its center, something was building. A Dyson ring, a megafactory. No one knew. The moment conquered probes approached, they were erased, not shot, not disabled, just deleted from real space. A clean cut in reality. An admiral from the Threx Alliance simply muttered what many had begun to suspect. They're not fighting us. They're preparing to replace us. 1 month later, a conquered AI flagged an anomaly. A phrase had begun appearing in old, derelict networks, graffiti left behind in dead languages, embedded into forgotten protocols, even carved into the shells of abandoned stations. A human phrase, in English. Do not kneel, not a slogan, a warning. And then came the final confirmation that shattered all illusion. At the Galactic Archive Nexus, a delegation discovered something impossible. The Stone of Submission, the original ancient relic at the heart of the conquered, had vanished. Stolen. From a vault no one had breached in 10,000 years. All that remained was a small pressure imprint in the floor. A single boot print. Human-sized, facing away from the altar. The first fleet didn't arrive, it materialized. No warp signature, no subspace ripple, no engine flare, just presence. 7 ships, obsidian black, smooth, no markings, no heat emissions. No shields visible because nothing was being emitted. No noise, no comms. The Creel patrol above Severin Roman 4 didn't understand what they were seeing until the lead ship moved. Not toward them, but through them. No weapons fired. No targeting systems lit. Yet the Creel command cruiser split down its spine, its reactor torn out and left hanging in perfect zero-G, still beating like a heart. 2 escort destroyers attempted to fire. Their targeting systems turned against them. Missiles rerouted mid-flight. Railgun rounds returned on impossible arcs. The bridge of one ship exploded inward, not from detonation, but from atmospheric implosion. 3 minutes later, all 7 Creel ships were gone. The Ghost Fleet had not claimed the system. It hadn't stayed. It had sent a message. We don't occupy, we erase. Across the spiral arms, panic was quarantined behind diplomatic smiles. The conquered issued emergency bulletins. Unknown aggressors, possibly rogue AI, investigation pending. But every species knew better. Human signatures were being found in impossible places. A torpedo shell discovered orbiting the Varn sun bore microetchings in Sanskrit, an Earth language dead for centuries. A destroyed mining rig in the Zelari belt had a single Earth tree growing in vacuum, roots embedded in the torn bulkhead, branches lit with fireflies. A communications satellite on Nez Prime blinked once and whispered a phrase in pure audio. "You should have listened when we were quiet." The ghost fleets were not just military. They were theater. The Conquered attempted to respond. They gathered 70 dreadnoughts, 33 fleets, hundreds of support craft. They named the operation Iron Cage, and its goal was simple: enter Sol, show dominance, force Earth's compliance. They never made it past Neptune. One by one, ships lost navigation, then lights, then communication, then power. No explosions, no battles, just absence. 33 fleets entered the Uit cloud. None emerged. The only transmission was a visual. A single figure standing atop a shattered Creel hull holding no weapon. Commander Lion Kale. She stared into the camera, silent, eyes like frost, not angry, not triumphant, just finished. And behind her, stars blinked out, one by one, until only darkness remained. On Orathis Prime, panic finally broke containment. Markets collapsed. Civil unrest spiked. Conquered members began resigning. The Threx Confederation declared neutrality. The Ivan withdrew from galactic politics entirely. The Cephalon offered Earth reparations, not for Carthage 7, but for not listening. Still, Earth said nothing. They didn't negotiate. They didn't retaliate. They just continued. Every galactic week, another strategic facility vanished. A dark matter refinery collapsed into itself. A cloning station was found sealed, its own defense AI rewritten to maintain permanent stasis over the surviving staff, a fate worse than death. On the moons of Velgaris, a monument appeared overnight, a statue of a kneeling alien holding a sword, blindfolded. Beneath it, a plaque written in Terran standard. "This is what you wanted. This is what we refused." The ghost fleets multiplied. They were no longer operating in cells. They were a network. Multiple systems reported simultaneous strikes. Precision, zero collateral. Targeted only those who had participated in the sanctions, the bombing of Carthage 7, the Conquered vote. It was retribution without waste. And now it was personal. A Creel High Noble was found in his luxury cruiser, body untouched, but brain overwritten with neural data, forced to relive the last moments of the Carthage attack in infinite loop. A Zelari admiral received a coffin in orbit. Inside was a perfect hologram of her own future, dated to the exact minute her fleet would vanish. The prophecy came true, to the second. And still, Earth did not speak, did not claim victory, did not demand peace. Because to demand peace would imply they were still at war. And to them, this was no longer war. It was surgical removal, a galactic cleansing of corruption, a consequence, the price of kneeling. In a secret Conquered chamber, the remaining High Council members debated their options. "We must offer terms," said the Cephalon representative. "An apology, reparations, return their colonies." "You think they want colonies," hissed the Zelari. "They're rebuilding star systems. They're rewriting physics. This isn't conquest. This is something else." A hologram flickered on. The last surviving feed from an infiltrator drone showed a megastructure in the void, not a station, not a weapon, a library, built from dark crystal, populated by autonomous drones carving human scripts into panels that shone with starlight. At the center, a phrase in every known language. "Kneeling was a choice. You made yours, we made ours." Then the feed died. The drone was not destroyed. It was returned, fully functional, left drifting in Conquered space, with one extra message embedded. "Next time we won't return the pieces." Behind closed doors, analysts reached the unthinkable conclusion. The humans were not building an empire. They were building a mirror, one that would show the galaxy its own cruelty and then erase it. not to rule, not to enslave, just to ensure no other child would plant a garden and die for it. In a private meditation chamber on the Creel homeworld, the retired war historian Graskta was asked by his grandson, why didn't they stop when they won? The old one stared at the stars, voice a whisper. They never wanted to win. They only wanted to be left standing. And still, the message echoed across systems, ships, species. Do not kneel. It was no longer a threat. It was a law of nature. Section 4. The galaxy burns the conquered sent no invitation. None was needed. On the day of reckoning, she simply arrived. Commander Lion Kale, again standing where no human was welcome, the arena of Concord, rebuilt since her last visit. This time she didn't walk alone. She didn't need to. She stood alone because that was enough. 400 species watched as she stepped onto the black stone again. The new one, forged to replace the ancient stone of submission, because the old one had never been found. The council chamber trembled under the weight of her silence. The speaker of the conquered, a bloated Threx diplomat draped in robes of artificial gravity, tried to sound composed. Human, you have made your point. Kale said nothing. The speaker coughed, voice shaking. We offer terms. We acknowledge the miscalculations of the past. We accept that the rite of kneeling was outdated, a relic. We are prepared to discuss your. Kale raised one hand, not in command. Not in violence, just enough to stop the words. The entire chamber obeyed. Every translator device ceased transmitting. Every microphone died. Kale stepped forward. Each step echoed like thunder. She stopped just short of the speaker's platform. From her armor she pulled a small item. A coin, obsidian, smooth, carved with earth on one side. She placed it gently in the speaker's trembling palm. Then she finally spoke. 4 words, soft, quiet but felt across the galaxy. You were warned once. The speaker looked down at the coin. It burned cold in his hand. What do you want? Kale turned away. That was the answer. They wanted nothing. Not revenge, not surrender, not tribute. Just one thing, to never kneel again. And to ensure no one else would have to. The ghost fleets didn't stop, but their targets changed. Not random, not vengeful, surgical. They dismantled slave economies, erased warlords hiding behind council charters, vaporized the vaults of banking dynasties that profited from conflict, shut down broadcasting towers spreading propaganda, rebuilt collapsed colonies that the conquered let starve. They didn't occupy, they didn't demand, they corrected, and vanished. 1,000 species began copying human methods, not out of loyalty, but out of fear that they might be next. Or worse, ignored. Entire empires rewrote their constitutions to outlaw kneeling rites. The Zelari matriarchs banned oaths of submission. The Creel erased the right of ascendancy. The Threx destroyed their trial arenas, because now kneeling had a cost, and humans had made it unforgettable. Earth still said nothing. Its people rebuilt quietly. No fanfare, no broadcasts, no flag plants or ultimatums. But the stars changed. Outposts once abandoned began shining again. Ruins on Carthage 7 bloomed with green. Satellites began transmitting only one message. We stood, and when we stood, you burned, so now we tend the fire. In time, the council disbanded, not with ceremony but with absence. Too many species stopped showing up. Too many systems had chosen another council, unspoken, borderless, ungoverned. The human standard became the most studied legal document in the galaxy, not because humans enforced it, but because ignoring it meant you might be next. Years later, a child born to a mixed-species family on the edge of the Hellion Rim asked her grandmother a question. Why are humans allowed to break the rules? The old one, who had once served in the Conquered Guard, smiled softly. They don't break the rules, she said. They just never signed them. The child blinked. But they stood on the submission stone. No, dear, the elder whispered. They stood above it. Kale was never seen again, not officially. But rumors said her face appeared once every few years on a war-torn world, a shattered station, or an orphan colony about to fall. She would arrive quietly, stand beside the forgotten, and not kneel. And wherever she stood, the flames of old tyrants dimmed, not by force, but by fear. In the void between stars, deep in forgotten sectors, the last message of the ghost fleets echoed long after their ships stopped appearing. A simple phrase embedded in the static of dying worlds. This is the price of arrogance, not conquest, not genocide, but memory. You will remember us every time you see someone stand tall, and ask yourself, why did we ever demand they kneel?